All right, so the couple of things that we're going to talk about today. First, we'll discuss the basics of the National History Day competition and the project requirements. Then we'll move into a discussion of this year's theme. The second half of the presentation is going to focus on Region 7 specific information. So that will be everything you need to know about registration, the deadlines, how to navigate our website, and there will be an opportunity for Q&A at the conclusion of the webinar. I do ask that you hold your questions until the end, or maybe put them in the chat box or the Q&A, but I won't be able to answer them until the conclusion of today's webinar. So I thought we'd begin with an overview of National History Day. So as some of you may already know, the NHD competition occurs at the regional, state, and national levels. Every year, there is a new theme that guides the students' topic selection and research. The Pittsburgh competition will take place in person at Heinz History on March 19th and 20th. So the junior competition, which is our middle schoolers, that'll be on the 19th. And our senior competition, which is all of high school, will be on the 20th. We will be having a hybrid competition this year. So what that means is that students in certain categories are eligible to participate virtually, and I'll talk more about what that means a little bit later on. The top 3 entries in each category will advance to the state competition, and the top 3 at the Pennsylvania state competition will advance forward to nationals, which takes place this summer at the University of Maryland. So there are 5 project types that students can participate in. Students preferring to participate virtually can do so in 3 of the 5 categories. So the first category is documentary. These have a 10-minute maximum, and students can choose to do the documentary either individually or as a group. For any category that has the group option, that limit is 2 to 5 students. And when students are in a group, let's say that one student is a 9th grader and the rest are 7th graders, they have to participate in the older category. So they would all then be in the senior category. Students are typically provided with screens and projectors on the day of, but they're not required to use any of that equipment. They are able to manage their own equipment, and they're free to use anything that they have brought with them. So with that said, they still need to be able to tear down and set up in the allotted time, and there will be more details about that a little bit later on. For documentary, there is the virtual option only. So students will not be participating in person at Heinz History. The second category is exhibit. Students who want to do an exhibit can do so either individually or as a group. This option is only for in-person competitors. It's really, really great for students who are creative and concise writers. Exhibits can even sometimes be interactive. So sometimes what students do is they have a tablet that plays a small video or a sound clip. If this is something that your student is interested in, please make sure that they consult the rule book. There are really specific instructions about how to do this and limitations. If you're not familiar, I will show you where to find the rule book in just a little bit. So our third category is paper. This is the only category of the 5 where there is no group option. Students have to do papers individually. Sometimes students who find a ton of research and are really eager to kind of communicate all of that research choose a paper because it has the greatest word maximum. So for the paper, this is a virtual option only. Performances can be done individually or in a group, but of course these are presented live at the competition, so it doesn't make sense for us to have that as a virtual option. Your students are interested in a performance, they're going to have to actually attend the competition. There is a 10-minute maximum, and the costumes, the props, memorized scripts, all of that is pretty normal. If your students are interested in a performance or really any of these categories and they don't know really what a good model looks like, there are winning examples on the NHD website. The last category is websites. Students can do this alone or with friends, but it has to be constructed using a specific NHD platform. So that platform is NHD Web Central. I have the address here. There is a word limit for the websites. Sometimes students have trouble using the website functions. So this year we are planning to provide students with a program with some of our tech people at Heinz History to help them through navigating the website so they can be ultimately successful in that category. Websites are virtual options only. So for the project requirements, in addition to choosing one of those 5 types of projects, there are a few other things that students need to submit. The first is a title paper, and there are specific examples in the rule book of what those look like. There is also a process paper and annotated bibliography necessary. In process papers, students describe research and they really discuss how they developed their ideas. They also explicitly explain how their topic relates to this year's theme. So if that connection, well, that connection should be really present in their project. But if the judge isn't sure of that connection, they will be referring to the process paper to look for that specifically in there. The third thing is the annotated bibliography. Here, it's just about 2 to 3 sentences right underneath the citation that explain the relevance of their sources. Examples of each of these, in addition to detailed instructions, are available on nhd.org. And the contest rulebook, which I will show you a little bit later on, has a lot of great resources in it as well. So next, discussing a little bit about this year's theme. So the 2022 theme is Debate and Diplomacy in History, Successes, Failures, Consequences. On the screen are the official definitions of debate and diplomacy that were adopted by National History Day. Oftentimes when we think of debate, we think of a conversation between 2 people that is taking place officially, like a presidential debate, the Lincoln-Douglas debates. But it's really helpful to encourage your students to think about debate more broadly, as meetings that occur both formally and informally between multiple groups with different perspectives. Diplomacy is the act of negotiating, compromising, and communicating with people or nations to find nonviolent solutions. Diplomacy can certainly happen in an official capacity, but it can also be in an unofficial capacity on a more local level. So with this theme, a lot of the questions we receive from students is, can I do a topic where there wasn't like an official debate or an international diplomatic event? And the answer is yes. Thinking about these terms broadly and locally can often give them a really unique perspective and a really unique project. So a few things about theme. Students do not have to discuss debate and diplomacy equally. So if they have a project that has, let's say 75% debate, 25% diplomacy, it is perfectly okay to talk about those things in that capacity. It's only problematic if they choose to either ignore one aspect, either debate or diplomacy, when it is clearly present in their topic. So it's okay to talk about one only, but there should not be any thing that they're kind of not referring to if it's present in the topic. So students, while they don't have to discuss debate and diplomacy necessarily, they should discuss successes, failures, and consequences. They should not leave any of these out of their project. It's also important to remember that debate and diplomacy does not have to be cause and effect, even though sometimes that's the first way we think of it. Sometimes an act of diplomacy can lead to more debate, or a season of debate can lead to a final act of diplomacy. Diplomacy has a connotation of something that happens internationally, but remember that does not have to be the case. Encourage your students to think of debate and diplomacy that have happened at the international, national, local, and community levels. And if they're struggling to kind of think of sub-themes or topics that refer to this, encourage them to think about broader categories like social, political, economic, and cultural issues. So now that we've talked a little bit about the overview of National History Day and the 2022 theme, I wanted to get into a little bit more specific information about our competition at Heinz History. So registration is open now until February 17th at midnight. What you see on the screen is a snapshot of our website. That web address is at the bottom there, starting with PA. And what students will do is either, or teachers as well, log in using last year's credentials, or if they have not already participated, they will create a new account. Students who are participating in a group project will need to follow specific instructions for registration, all of which is available in that student tab. So they will have the same group key. What that means is one person of the group will register first, and they will then share that group key with other students in their group so they can all sort of be in the system as having one project. Teachers must register before students are able to. So if you have a student reach out to you and is having trouble registering, if you haven't registered for this year's competition, they're not going to be able to find the right buttons as it walks them through the system. There is a $7 fee this year for participants outside of Pittsburgh Public Schools. And I will walk you through this website at the end of the webinar. I just wanted to make you aware sort of what it looks like. And again, if you're looking for specific information about registration, click on that student tab or the teacher tab. So again, registration closes on February 17th. We will not be accepting any more projects after that deadline, and they can certainly start registering now. It does not matter what day they register in that time frame. Projects are going to be due in the registration system March 7th by the end of the day. And as we get a little bit closer to that date, there will be detailed instructions on the website of how to submit those things and what needs to be included. Our junior competition is on March 19th, and our senior competition is on March 20th. The top 3 performing students in each category will move on to the state competition May 7th and 8th, and then again to the national competition. More information about the virtual project deadlines will be available soon. So on the day of the contest, students and judges will be assigned various rooms and time slots. So during their given time slot, each student will have the opportunity to interact with judges by answering a few of their questions. The quality of student responses is not supposed to factor into scores, but may be used for clarifying purposes. So there is one mistake in the slide. I apologize about that. Students who are participating in person will only be participating or competing against other in-person students. So we have 2 award ceremonies. We have a virtual award ceremony for the virtual categories, and then we have an in-person ceremony for the in-person categories. Because of the number of contestants that we are expecting, it is very likely that there will be multiple first-round judging teams. Entries that then move forward to the final round will all be judged by one final judging team. So at the end of each day, we will have our in-person award ceremony and our virtual award ceremony. Again, more logistical details regarding the competition and what to expect the day of will be available as we get a little bit closer to the event. So the final section of our webinar here is how to support students, specifically if you are a teacher that is new to the National History Day competition. What I've included here is just a brief snapshot of a few of the ways that the National History Day projects align with Common Core standards for every grade 6 through 12. I'm sure many of you are already aware of this. But as a teacher new to this, maybe your school has never participated in National History Day, you might need a little bit of buy-in from your PLC or an administrator, or maybe you just really like to keep track of the standards that you meet throughout the year. So this is a snapshot. There is a more comprehensive list of the Common Core standards that NHD meets available on nhd.org/teacher resources. These are just 3 of the ways that students meet or exceed anchor standards and history standards by participating in this contest. Helping students choose a topic that interests them and fits well within the theme is the first step to success. I really love how this year's theme can apply to so many aspects of history. Ken Burns produced a promotional video for the NHD theme this year that provides many topic ideas and helps students think of the theme in terms of those broad categories like social, political, economic, and cultural. If you have not already seen that video, I highly suggest watching that and showing it to your students. That is available on the NHD national website. I always like to highlight the fact that every subject, topic, or hobby has a history. I see a lot of room for sports or science topics given this year's theme. Many students want to choose a topic that has to do with something they see happening in the news. Please encourage them to choose a topic from at least 20 to 25 years ago. It's perfectly okay to talk about something happening now in terms of maybe a success, failure, or consequence, but a current event should not be the entire topic. And the theme, after all, is debate and diplomacy in history. So that's why we kind of have that time frame that we look for. In my experience, NHD judges love to see local topics. Not that that means that your student is going to perform better for choosing a local topic, but it is really fun to see kids getting interested in their local and community history. Sources for local topics also tend to be really rich with information and very accessible. In January or early February, I'll be hosting another webinar with a few of our Heinz History curators where we'll dive into primary sources and discuss what is available locally at the archives. Tips number 5 and 6 apply to our younger and newer participants. So this is especially helpful if you are a 6th grade teacher or 7th grade teacher and your students have never done this before. Students may find it easier to research and discuss a topic that is more clearly debate or diplomacy. So if you help steer them in that direction where it's just clearly one, they might not feel as overwhelmed by having to cover so many different aspects of the topic in their project. If a student is eager to dive into a new topic that they have very little background knowledge about, that is fantastic, but you might encourage them to choose a project category that already aligns with their strengths and existing skill sets. So learning how to use video equipment and software, for example, can be extremely overwhelming for students who are already struggling to do the research and to do the writing. So encouraging them to, stick with what they know might be a good strategy for students who are new to National History Day. This is a copy of the Heinz History topic brainstorm list. We won't really spend any time on this. I just wanted to make you aware that this list exists. And you can also find a PDF version of this on our website, which I will show you shortly. I'll show you this in addition to other resources, but I wanted to make you aware that we have created this list as we do every year. So the last slide here for supporting students is about defining reasonable help. I took this snapshot straight from the rule book. So please note that the rule book is also a great resource for you and for students. As an educator, I understand how blurred lines can become between supporting students and doing it for them, especially when stakes are really high. Like let's say they make it to states or to nationals. So here are some examples of what National History Day deems appropriate assistance or reasonable help for students. Teachers are encouraged to teach skills, edit projects, provide guidance, but students sort of have to be the ones to build the websites or create the documentaries. I thought it was interesting in the performance category, it's perfectly fine for adults to help with sewing the costumes as long as the students design it. So National History Day sort of understands that students might not have every tool or every skill necessary to be successful. And as long as you are supporting them along the way, that is perfectly acceptable. This chart and more information about reasonable help, if that's something you're curious about, is available in the contest rulebook as well. So what we have here is a very short list, not a comprehensive list of resources I have just a few online places that you can find free primary and secondary sources. You don't need to create an account or anything like that. Students can easily access these. But remember to check your local archives as well. So again, I know we're going to be talking more about that in January. If your student has a Pittsburgh or a regional topic, you might be able to come to Heinz History and find what you need there. But if your student is doing something internationally or European, for example, Dickinson has a great selection of archives. Newspapers are great for local topics as well. And then of course we have Library of Congress and the National Archives. In terms of contest details and support for National History Day, the National History Day website is fantastic, though it can sometimes be a little bit difficult to find what you're looking for. So I'll kind of show you how to navigate this. So if we go to for teachers, oh goodness. Let's see. Having a hard time hovering over this. Okay, so we have a little bit of information about our annual theme. This is where you can find the Ken Burns video. There's also graphic organizers. So if you are someone who support for students looks like worksheets and actual things that you can just kind of print out and take to the classroom, we also have some of that here as well. So this is the 2022 theme graphic organizer. You can watch for instructions of the recommended ways to use this, or you can go ahead and download the PDF. Here is the Ken Burns theme video. Again, it's around 10 minutes, so maybe a little bit long to show a classroom, but in my opinion, 100% worth it. We also have some slides, if you'd like to show these, of what is diplomacy, thinking about debate. We go to student resources. Here is where you can find more information about each of the 5 categories. When you click on each of these, you will see at the very bottom, student documentary examples. And these will be winning national examples, and they have each age group for each category. If you go to for teachers again, we also have the rule book here on the right. You can get a PDF version of that. That is the most recent rule book. We also have, with NHD participation comes a complimentary subscription for 1 season of Noodle Tools. So if you are someone who has never taken advantage of that yet, you can easily sign up. I have never specifically used Noodle Tools with my students. I think this is a newer thing from when I was participating, but I have looked at it and it seems like a fantastic way to help your students organize their research. The last thing in terms of teacher resources I really wanted to show you was this. We have on the National History Day website kind of a pre-formed research project timeline, suggested timeline, and a full project. So if you're looking for something that you can kind of just print and adapt and use, this is amazing. It has rubrics, it has instructions. It's a really, really great thing to use with your students. And I like that it is specific to grade level. So that is there for you as well. That was here. If you're looking for more information about the Common Core standards and how NHD meets those, you can download this document, and this will have a bigger version of the snapshot that I showed you just a little bit earlier. In terms of for students, one of my favorite student resources is the videos that they have created. Let's see, we can find one here. Oh, and our NHD evaluation forms. So when you click on the project that your student is planning on doing, like a documentary, on this page at the bottom right, you will always see an evaluation form, because the evaluation form changes based on the type of project that they choose. So it's really good for students to go into the competition sort of knowing ahead of time what judges are specifically looking for. We also have some project checklists to help them out. That's a really great resource. And we have some videos. So as you click on each of the 5 categories, we have NHD experts who walk students through the process of creating one of those. And we also have videos for kids about the rules. So if it seems unlikely, like your students are going to flip through the 50-page rule book, you can direct them toward the videos. So that's a little bit about what's available on the NHD website, if you weren't familiar with that. The last resource I'm going to show you is our regional website. So here we see the create account and log in. Again, if you have information from last year, maybe you've already participated, you're welcome to just log in using those existing credentials. If you have never participated, you can go ahead and create a new account. If you check back on the website frequently, this is where I'll be putting more information about upcoming webinars or maybe an FAQ section. So this is kind of a work in progress. So keep checking back. There will certainly be details about virtual project submission on the website as well. So we have our key competition dates, which we kind of already went through, some help with creating an entry, and we have our resources. So this is where you can find the PDF of the local topics list. You can also show these little videos to your students about using primary sources, and you can just easily access the rulebook and eval forms on here as well. In terms of registration, we have detailed instructions for students how to register, so you can direct them toward the student tab. This is the section, the special note for group members. This is the section they'll want to make sure they read if they are participating in a group. And then we even have some details of if they forgot their username or password. Same thing with teachers. We have a set of detailed instructions of how to register your students if you think that would be easier, or how to at least register yourself. That way your students can then register. If you are registering your students, we have created a student registration form that will easily allow you to collect the appropriate information from each student. So let's see if this loads here. If you participated last year, it is virtually the same form, so you can use what you already have, or you're welcome to print out our new form. Make sure that you get their t-shirt size. Of course, we want to provide our students with that. So I believe that that concludes the resources that I was hoping to show you all. So if anybody has any questions, I think we can go ahead and start our Q&A session now. See, I'm looking at the chat box here. You're welcome to put a question in the chat box. In the Q&A, those both should be active. And we can go ahead and answer those. What was the website for registration? That's a great question. Let's see if we can navigate back to that. So it is pa-nhdp.nhd.org. And just to review the deadlines, registration is open now until February 17th at the end of the day. So just while we wait another minute to see if anyone else has questions, I just want to make you all aware that I'm available for support by email anytime. You have my K.A. Bearinger email that came with your registration. That is a direct source to me, or you are welcome to send your questions to the NHD email that you hopefully all received an invitation from. If you would like to be on our listserv to receive more information about National History Day, you are not already getting emails, you can go ahead and either put your email in the chat box, or you can email me directly and I will make sure to go ahead and add you to our list. In January, again, we are hoping to have, or February, no date is set yet, we're hoping to have 2 student-based webinars, one with our curators about locating and finding valuable primary sources for their projects. The second student-based program is about supporting them through the process of creating a website, since we know that that can sometimes be one of the trickier categories. So keep a lookout for emails from me about those upcoming events. They would also be available on the NHD website where you probably registered for this event. Don't believe that we have any other questions. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar, but I do thank you all very much for participating and considering joining our email list and participating in National History Day. I hope you all have a great rest of your day.